Hey everybody, Anthony here, FSU Off-Road, and welcome to the finale of our Jeep build. As you can see behind me, Tinkerita is put together, but she's not done yet, so stay tuned. Now you may be wondering why Tinkerita's out of the garage when she looks like she's pretty much complete. Upon further inspection and a close look, she's about 85% done. She's not completely done yet, but she does look good with all the body panels on. But if you get a little bit closer, you can see there's not much on the interior, and we're going to fix that because today we're loading Tinkerita up and we're headed to the Digging Deeper race shop to where we can get this thing completely finished and ready for the race season. Now that we've got Tinkerita loaded up on the trailer, I'm gonna get it all strapped down and we're gonna be hitting the road. All right, we got here at the race shop. Tinkerita is all here, unloaded. We got our box of goodies over here and we're just gonna start cranking this stuff out and hopefully driving this thing maybe by the end of the day or definitely by the end of the weekend. Let's get to it.
Over the next 48 hours, we worked on the suspension, including coilovers, bump stop pads, attaching the reservoirs. We worked on the brake system, getting things bled and adjusted the way they needed to be. The steering system and adding fluids and all the differentials, transmission, transfer case. Worked on the throttle pedal. We worked on rerouting some coolant lines while working on skid plates. Basically got this thing ready to drive out of the garage and onto the trailer.
Since I can't read very well, put the hydraulic lines in backwards and we've had brake line issues, but it's finally out of the garage under its own power.
Shoot on backwards. The first one, that's all.
We loaded it up under its own power. Wasn't easy, it's running really rich because there's no exhaust and stuff like that, so we definitely got to figure that out, but it's steering, we got a little bit of brake, still got some stuff to figure out, but man, it's almost ready to do some donuts. But we're not done yet, there's still more to come, so stay tuned. All right, we got Tinkerita back in the garage after a long weekend of working on it. And yeah, there's still a lot to be done, lots left to work on, but we've made a lot of progress. And yeah, still a lot to be done, a lot to check off the to-do list, a lots of things that we've added to the to-do list. And I got about 2.5 weeks until April 1st, so we're going to continue knocking this stuff out as best we can. But before I continue that, I'm going to spend the afternoon cleaning up the garage from where I was gone, getting everything put away, that way I can find it, and then hopefully make things a little bit easier to work on in the next couple weeks. Although it took me a while to get it all cleaned up, we've got a nice and clean place. This is the first time that I've seen my little work area in a year and 5 months since we started this project. So this is a great feeling. Now I got everything cleaned up over here. There's some stuff on this shelf, the stuff that we'll be putting on there. Top shelf is kind of like spare parts. This is some old stuff, just trying to store some things away in our little space. Now we'll Tinkerita back in here and we can start knocking out our to-do list. I'm trying to get all my AccuSump, oil cooler lines, all that ran, and then we can work on button up everything up here, serpentine belt, things like that, intake, and then we can just finish up everything back here. But basically I'm duplicating. This is going to be the oil cooler, transmission, red fittings, oil, all black fittings, also A and 10 versus A and 8. And what I'm doing is I'm just basically mimicking this side on the oil cooler. So we'll run these lines down to the chassis underneath, just like the other side, get it routed up to the front here, and then what we'll do is we'll get our piece installed there. We'll route our AccuSump pump to it, and then before we finalize it all and get it all hooked up, I want to pre-fill everything. That way there's not like a big air pocket, so we'll fill it from the top. That's why this fitting right here is not tight. So we'll probably just take that fitting out, fill up the cooler, let it gravity feed all the way down throughout the chassis. And that's what I plan on doing. So let's knock this out. Now that I got it all ran, zip tied in, you can see how we cleaned it up back here, ran it down the bottom side of the chassis. The fuel lines just connects up here. Now that we're up here, we can get our rest of our hoses ran. We'll probably run it alongside here, down the motor mount, and then to our oil supply down there, and we'll change out our blockout plate, and then we'll also route one down from the AccuSump pump to it as well. And in order to do that with AccuSump pump, we're going to need a T, and most importantly, our check valve. That way flow can only go one way, because you don't want it to push back through the cooler, you want it to push through the motor. So we'll have to put that on the return side, that way it won't push back through the cooler. So just make a note of that whenever you might want to install one. But anyways, now that we got this stuff figured out, we'll figure out the routing up here, and then we can not install it yet, but kind of get our fittings and stuff figured out, because we'll have to obviously put some oil and everything else like that in it. But closer for sure. Much how this whole project's gone, I'm a day late and I'm fitting short, but as you can see here, I'm just trying to get our check valve connected to this T. So went ahead and ordered a different T, but basically what's going to happen is your AccuSump will put pressure to the piece back there above that oil filter to push oil into the motor, and this check valve right here will allow it not to push back to the coolers, which is in the back. So now that that's taken care of, I'm just waiting on that fitting, not worry about that. Now the thing I need to do today is I need to work on getting the intake taken care of, get it all mounted up with our new filters, and finish the exhaust, and hopefully our axle shafts will be here, and maybe today, maybe Monday, because it's the weekend. Got the intake here mounted up the way we want it. It's kind of up out of the way. The last thing that we'll have to do is we'll just have to tack our tabs in place there. That way it'll be up out of the way. And basically we just shortened it and lowered it a little bit. and it's going to work out great. Now you may be wondering why we're using the Spectre filters. That's because they're literally everywhere. Any automotive place, they'll have them. So if they do get clogged, obviously we can clean them, but we can also just utilize new ones as well if we're in a pinch and in a hurry. Since most of you know, pretty much a DIY guy, do it all myself. I just bought just a standard 2.5 inch stainless just tube kit, and then also bought some exhaust wrap because we're going to be wrapping from the headers back with our high heat coating to put on afterwards. Obviously, if you haven't seen, our headers utilize V-band clamps. I wanted those versus bolt-on style just to kind of minimize any kind of leaks. And then these are actually made here in North Carolina, a little shop here in the Raleigh area. Got those ordered and got them shipped because they're really small. So that's what we're going to utilize for our mufflers. So now I need to just figure out how we're going to piece it underneath the chassis here, how we're going to route it. I think I'm going to come out and down to the backside and then dump out behind the upper rear link. This side is not going to be a big deal. The only thing that's on this side is the oxygen sensor. So this is kind of the more important side for the motor. And the other side is going to be a little bit more tricky because of the carrier bearing. And when I say the carrier bearing, I mean it's like right on top. So you can kind of see how close it is. So we're going to have to come out directly out. So we'll probably have to take our V-band clamp that exists and probably cut it and re-weld it to have like a 90 or something that comes out at an angle to get it away from the carrier bearing sitting there. So I'll worry about that one second. I'll worry about this other one first because it should be the easier side. Let's knock this out. Just wanted to bring you under here and kind of show you what I got going on. I can move, you know, our muffler wherever I want to move it, but just kind of get an idea of how to do. And what we did is we just cut our, it's a, what is that, 180, and just cut it to where I could rotate it. Now I'll probably have to do some rounding of the tubes, but we'll come down and then sweep it back around and then straight flow, and then out the bottom side there should be sufficient enough. Not 100% sure we're going to put that along with everything else, but once I get the welder back up and running, we'll get these tack welded and then we'll see what it looks like. Alright, it's early morning. It's literally 7 o'clock, but jumping on this early this morning, yesterday afternoon, kind of finished out all the routing of the exhaust. It's got the stuff for the welder, so the welder's back up and running. Got our axle shafts and finished up on this side. So this side we'll route it up and then around. As you can see there, it's going to be close to the carrier bearing, but we should have enough space there. So I'm going to start piecing this stuff together, get it tack welded together this morning, see if we can't get an exhaust done. It's gonna be a long day, but a pretty day. Now that we've got the exhaust and all done, I'm reinstalling everything after we've got it all wrapped and everything. Just going to want to show you, bring you in here what we did. Got everything exhaust strapped black, and then we're going to be putting in the full exhaust. And then the last thing that we got to do to finish the exhaust is to install our hangers. Then once we do that, can kind of go over everything with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that everything is plugged up the way it should be good, and then we could get it cranked and running again. Went ahead and wheeled, tinkered it out here. As I said, got all the exhaust and everything done. Got the hangers in place. You can see how they're all hung there. And oxygen sensor in, throttle pedal, all that stuff. So I want to get this cranked up and then put the throttle pedal in, and brought my laptop out here. That way we can kind of do some digital work here, see if we can fine tune this, and then make sure we got all of our gears and stuff. The biggest one's reverse. That's what we're hoping to have. We know it goes forward. We're waiting to make sure it goes back. So fingers crossed, hopefully all goes well, and we'll be driving this thing soon. I drove it to the top of the hill. I think it's going to start starving for fuel, but yeah. The exhaust shaft is leaking. All the parameters look good. I'm stoked. Well, spent most of the day, actually I spent yesterday afternoon going through the Holley system and getting the LS1 running better. It ran fine as it was, but it was really rich when we first started it, especially without the exhaust. Now with the exhaust, it's relearning parameters, so I'm kind of helping it and boosting it along. So the exhaust really helped out a lot as far as leaning it out, so it doesn't kill you whenever you're in there now, as you can see with the exhaust all lined up on both sides. So since I lost the afternoon yesterday, there's 3 big things that we got to take place in order to get this thing ready for April 1st. And when I mean ready, I mean driving around, go drive on some trails, not race ready, obviously. But those are, 1, front axle shafts. We got to get those installed. As you see here, we only have 1 coil spring, which is right there. We have those here, so we got to get those 2 things installed. I got to secure a couple of lines as far as vent lines. I got to fix the rear brake lines, get the brakes bled, completely bled, and then obviously put all the panels and stuff back on it. That way it'll be ready to hit the road. And while we do that, we might as well nut and bolt and check everything as well. Well, I got her under her own weight, on springs, got it pretty much at ride height. Unfortunately, I'm a little soft in the front, so I'm probably going to order another set of springs and get these sent back. But the rear turned out perfect in the measurements, and what I'm actually going to do is it's 1 inch below where I want it to ride. As you can see, we have a lot of up travel, which is what I want. Right now we have 8 inches of up travel, and I want about 8.5, 9 inches of up travel, and then obviously that same stuff in the rear. So I have plenty of spring in the rear. It's just the front, it's just a little bit soft, and I don't have my winch. So I know that I need to get a little bit heavier spring for the front, but other than that, we were really close. So I'm not upset about it at all, and it really looks good with the springs on there, especially the silver. I'm a fan. Now that we got the knuckles off from the front axle, I'm taking the knuckles off for one reason and one reason only. It's the plate back here. My original plan was to do it, and then I decided not to do it because I've welded everything to this. However, after talking to a bunch of the guys, we all agreed that I'm going to build a front plate to cover this and then plate it on the back side. That way these don't have an opportunity to bend up or bend down and flare or anything like that. So I'm going to get some scrap metal out. Going to make a couple gussets here with the grinder, and then we're just going to clean up the spray paint because I ain't going to be able to weld to it. Get that all out of the way, and then throw in a good hefty bead. Get some rattle can, put them back on there, and then install the axles. So probably, I don't know, hoping another hour and a half, 2 hours, we can start installing the front axles. So axle shafts, there we go. Well, I wish I was coming to you with a video with it all being done and completed, but so when I built these axles, it's really hard to see. There's this very small lip here, and so the inner axle tube itself is actually hitting the axle shaft. When it's in here, you can actually see where it's been hitting and where it's grinding on that. And I'm not able to press the unit bearing in all the way. So after doing some research, other axle manufacturers, this isn't completely flush like mine is, or recessed. It's actually further back, so the axle shaft can sit in here further. So I've got some options of what I want to do, what I need. What I want to do is I want to trim the axle shafts just to make it easy. Problem is, if I ever break an axle shaft and I want to install a new one, I'm going to have to do it again. And I don't want to do that. So the correct and the right way to do it is to take this out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Dremel and probably spend the rest of the day dremeling all this out. Probably 3/8 of an inch, because it's 3/16 on both sides is what it is. So I figured if I take about 3/8 of an inch out, I should have enough clearance for both sides. But man, this absolutely sucks. I was so close. Literally, this was it. Finished some brake stuff, bleed the brakes. I was going to keep the front axle up, crank it up, turn back and forth, flush the steering system, and be done with it. But looks like we're in for a long day and a long night if I want to make the first. So we'll see. It's about 2:45. It's gonna take me a while to do this. Quarter inch wall tubing, 4-inch OD with a Dremel. Yep, not looking forward to this, but I'm just gonna, I don't know how long it's gonna take me to do this, so I'm just gonna show you the front axle when it's completely assembled and back together. Well, I told you I'd come to you whenever I got it done. It's been a long day. But Tinkerita has got her front axle shafts in. Everything's all buttoned up. And it is it's 10:30 at night. So that's how long it took me to cut these inner rings out. It was rough. Especially when you don't have the right tools. I literally left and got the right tools that I needed. Regardless, it still took a while. But now that the front axle shafts and stuff is done, I'm gonna put some body panels on it real quick, or interior panels. I've got to worry about fluids, front diff fluid tomorrow. Whew, still a lot to do, but we're getting closer. I don't know. Well, today's the last day, and I think today's gonna be the day that we finish this thing up. I just got to bleed the brakes and put the floor panels in, the seats and stuff like that, and make sure all the nuts and bolts are tightened up. And all my buddies are out wheeling right now. I missed the deadline, but technically I just said this weekend, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing done today and then load it up, and then maybe go play tomorrow for a little debut action. If any of you are wondering what the interior looked like, and you didn't go back and follow the videos, we pieced it all together. It's cut in the center there, that way I can either take that side out to work on the carrier bearings, those two sides, or this side stuff out to work on like transmission stuff over here. And then obviously this panel right here is just bolted down. You can top that out. You can just pop this out to get to the batteries quick and easy. And then we built a bracketry system here for our seat mounts on both sides.
This is the future.
Well, that was the last thing. Got the brakes bled with our Harbor Freight vacuum thingy. And I went ahead and tightened all the bolts, steering, filled coilovers and bump stops, as you can see there. I had a brake line that was leaking, so we had to put the old one back in. I'll build another one, but that'll be just fine for now. Yep, the interior is all put together, minus obviously GPSs and communications. Don't need that to make it run. Basically, everything that we need to get this thing driving and trail worthy is officially complete. So I think I'm going to take this thing for a little test ride, see how we do. All right, here we go. Okay. Still need some more brakes, but I ain't mad about it. I hope I don't break down going down the road. Let's see. Oh man, that was a rush. Brakes are a little weak for sure. Still don't have reverse. I gotta check on that. Fluids, but we drove it down the street and man, I can't wait to get this thing on the trails. Tinkerita is ready. And the finale is over. Driven down the street and ready for the trails. A year and a half in the making. Been a long journey, guys. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you all. We'll see you guys in the next one. So stay tuned.